I'm Jenny Gage, and this is Life Take Two. Hi, everybody. I'm Jenny Gage, and this is Life Take Two. And I just want to give a little bit of a warning at the top of this video that I am going to be diving into some content on Christian nationalism and white supremacy that I personally find somewhat heartbreaking and disturbing. So just know going into this that I am going to be playing a video from another creator that can be upsetting. And I do want to lead this video by saying, just in case you're new to me, that I am former MAGA, former Christian nationalist, former white supremacist, former Mormon, trad wife, alt-right prepper. And I share content like this in hopes of shining a light on ideologies that are beneath the surface of everyday American life that are extremely problematic and that threaten all of our safety and stability as a nation. I don't think that the average American has any idea some of the conversations that are happening around dinner tables and in other private settings between people when they know that everybody else is on the same page as them. And I'm doing absolutely everything that I can to shine a light into all of those dark corners of racism and other threats to civil rights and social stability that we face. So just know going into this that this is going to be really difficult for a lot of us to watch. Today, I'm going to be doing a response video to a creator who is popular on YouTube. People talk about her all over the place. And I've done a couple videos of hers before where I've just had little snippets. I never link her for two reasons. I don't want anyone from my channel to go over and bully her. And also, I don't want people from my channel to even consume any of her content because I feel like it's so hurtful. It's so hateful. It's so ugly. I felt like I needed to call my therapist this morning after I watched a bunch of her stuff in preparation for this video. Today, I am going to link the video that I'm responding to in this description. Do not bully her. If you would like to respond to any of her videos with a well thought out argument, please do. But here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to go over there and be assholes. I would encourage you on the video that I'm going to play for you to scroll through some of the comments, because to me, that's the more terrifying thing. The fact that there's one little MAGA girly who seems like she's maybe had a questionable education doing videos and gleaning a following, that's not shocking. But what I think might be shocking to some of you is the thousands and thousands of comments in her videos from other like-minded people. And I do think it's important for you to see those and pay attention. What I'm going to play for you, this has always existed. This was my life for 44 years. This is the ugly underbelly of America.
What's up, folks? Welcome back to the show. So as you saw in that video, just a typical one in millions of the videos that we see running around the internet. Don't even have to go looking for them. They quite literally come looking for you. Of a black person disrupting a space where civil society goes to get groceries.
What she just said right there, already, what civil society. This is going to be a theme throughout this video. There are the civilized and then there are the non-civilized, which is automatic dehumanization. We are the civilized. We are society, and everybody else is wild animals, barbarians. This is dehumanization. If she called the man in the video a monkey, it could not be any more racist than it is.
I don't know exactly what the backstory of that was. It looks like he was grabbing somebody's shopping cart. Maybe he was trying to shoplift and they were, like a citizen's arrest thing. Whatever the case, today we're not going to be talking as much about black people. We got to talk about our country, America, the United States. And this will be of interest to Americans who are from here, whose ancestors built this country. I'm not talking about anchor babies. I'm not talking about people who come here a minute ago and call themselves American. Well, I guess the immigrants today are not even doing that. I'm talking about real Americans, real heritage Americans whose ancestors and forefathers built this country.
Real Americans are, as far as I know, anybody who is an American citizen. And she's going to use this phrase, heritage Americans. This was something that I believed too, that the founding fathers, and I was part of the Daughters of the Revolution. Like, I have family that came over on the Mayflower. My 7 greats grandmother was George Washington's grandma. I have family that fought in the Revolutionary War that were colonists, my Scottish ancestors, my German ancestors, my British ancestors. So I personally considered myself a heritage American or a real American. And one of the reasons why was that I didn't have a good education. So I literally just didn't understand history. And I sort of thought that America didn't really begin to exist until my ancestors came. I pictured America just being this wide open, empty land that God had kept empty because he was preserving it for his chosen children. That was the Christian colonists and eventually the Mormon settlers to come and flourish on this land. So I thought that it was just empty. Like, I literally believed that nothing had ever happened in North America, Central America, South America until the white people arrived, until my ancestors arrived. That was just a very bad education.
And this will be of interest to European listeners and my American audience as well. America has gone to shit, okay?
I agree on that point. And as I have conversations with the few MAGA friends that I have in real life still, they're always surprised when I say, yeah, I agree that America has gone to shit. I believe that our values are down the toilet. Things are a lot harder. They're more expensive. The social fabric that holds us together is corroding in ways that are really alarming. And I am a woke atheist feminist, and I do agree on this. But let's listen to where she says the demise of America is coming from.
If you go to any other country, particularly any European country, you go there and you feel refreshed. And it's not just because you're on vacation. It's because you're around white people.
So it's the brown people in America that are the cause of all of the problems.
You're around a culture that has historically been white, that has always been white, that was settled by whites, and that has been white for a lot longer than America has. I think the reason why America is just so obnoxious, fast-paced, rude, there's no politeness, we don't really have a distinct culture. We don't dress well. We don't speak well. We don't have, we're not very cultured. It's very crass. Not that I'm one to speak. I do swear like a sailor, but.
So this little tirade here, I'm not sure where this young woman lives, like geographically, what part of the country she's in. But I live in an area that is very cultured, that's very refined. I live in Tucson, Arizona. There are a lot of college professors here. Most of my friends are college professors. I was at a hockey game last night with my college professor friend, who's also a nutrigenomics researcher. He played a pivotal role in some of the research that was being done on cadavers during COVID, and his girlfriend, who is an oncological pharmacist. The conversation at brunch over mimosas was phenomenal. My partner, of course, is far more educated than I am, and he's in education. I don't know about the rest of you, but I spent the weekend with artists and teachers and authors and just really phenomenal people. We went to a concert, I went dancing, and then yesterday I went to Kevin's Christian church with him, which was full of well-dressed, cultured, amazing people. So I don't know if this girl is in like some mobile home park in Alabama, and no slam on mobile home parks in Alabama. I wish that everyone could live in beautiful, safe neighborhoods wherever they are and be happy. But I think that her perception of the world is based more on where she lives than the reality of America.
Our culture is depressing and it's a rat race.
Again, just an average week in my life. There's absolutely nothing depressing about it. I am surrounded by really beautiful people of all demographics, of all nationalities, of all ages. I have a diverse and beautiful village that I live in. And it's amazing. I'm a little bit snobby about Tucson, Arizona. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world, full of some of the most beautiful people that I've ever known. Kevin chauffeured me to a few different No Kings locations this weekend, and just standing there with our little signs, talking to Vietnam veterans, and some of our local business owners and some of our politicians were out, and spoke with a couple of journalists. The parking, it was amazing. The only thing depressing that I ever see is MAGA people on my YouTube.
And I believe the reason why America, despite the fact that it was settled by Europeans, I think the reason why America has so gone to shit, why it's fast paced, loud, disgusting, vulgar, rude.
We are living in two very different Americas. And I think that she just needs to maybe move out of her neighborhood. Maybe she's bringing this on herself. Maybe she's a jerk. Sorry, my little high schooler keeps texting me here while I'm trying to record. Nobody's ever rude to me. Do you guys feel like people are rude where you live? Like this morning, I went for a jog on the trail and sat and had a 20-minute conversation with a total stranger. He's one of these biker guys in his spandex biking uniform. He's from Canada. And I just stopped to get a drink out of the drinking fountain. And he was there on his bike. And we talked about the No Kings rally, the checker at Trader Joe's, the people as I was shopping, everyone in the school drop off, everywhere that I've been just today. Nobody's been rude. Everybody is kind and loving, and I wonder if that's a you thing and not an America thing. And again, is this because of where she lives, or is this because she's an asshole and so people are rude to her?
Embarrassing, loud. I think the reason for that is because we've had non whites in this country basically from its inception. Slaves were over here pretty early on.
Okay. So the reason people are rude to her, the reason everybody's running this rat race, the reason they're wearing, like, I don't know what she's talking about, like their crappy clothes, and she'll talk about crappy food and stuff. It's because of the Black people. The Black people are the reason why we aren't refined. Like, I don't know what European countries she's traveled to. I don't imagine this person having traveled anywhere, but perhaps I'm wrong. Like maybe Paris or Milan or somewhere they're a little bit snazzier than us in America. And according to her, that's because of brown people.
So, pretty much, we've had non whites in this country.
The way she says that little bit there, but that's because of the white people. We did that to ourselves. So the indigenous populations of America, we invaded them. We stole their land. We came here uninvited and decided to move into their backyards and murder them while we were here. And the slaves that she's going to talk about slavery quite a bit. She's going to talk about enslaved humans throughout, and it's a little bit hard to listen to. They didn't choose to come here. It's not like a bunch of people in a village in Kenya in the early 1700s were like, hey, let's build a boat and we're going to go across the ocean here to America and we're just going to work on their plantations. The white people did that. It was horrendous. It is unforgivable. It is disgusting.
Black people, after the civil rights era, when we decided that that was a good idea, they were unleashed onto the populace. There was forced integration. Whites were basically forced at gunpoint. Actually, there's photos of that happening to integrate with these people. And then after them came the hordes from the third world, from Mexico, Central America. Farmers were hiring them. Employers were hiring them. They were coming over the border. So we've always had a stream of non-whites in this country.
Ironically, I never understood when I was a Christian nationalist, when I was a Mormon and all that. I didn't know my history. So again, I just truly don't think that this girl has any idea the reality of history. I didn't understand until like just a few years ago that like Arizona where I live, it's like, why are there so many Mexicans in Arizona? I would think this myself, like we're just being overrun. I had no idea that Arizona had originally been Mexico. Like, I don't know if I just hadn't had that Mexican War type of stuff in my history classes. I don't know if I had just missed that, if I had strep throat that week and didn't know. And like I had watched things like Remember the Alamo, but Again, I believed that my white European ancestors came into this totally empty continent. I didn't know about the Aztecs and the Mayans and the Olmecs and this whole entire South American culture that had existed long before the pilgrims got here. I thought that it was this empty continent. And when I saw Mexicans in my hometown in Phoenix, Arizona, I just thought they're invading. Like, why are they moving to America? They should stay in Mexico. It wasn't until just a couple years ago that I went to a museum here in Tucson, Arizona, that had this whole Mexican cultural exhibit. It talked about the barrio and the Mexican population that has been here for like hundreds and hundreds of years. And then I took a tour of the Presidio, which is this big fortress here in Tucson. And they talked about all of the Mexicans that had lived here and how that like their descendants are still here today. That this light bulb went on in my head. And I was like, oh, some of these Mexican people have always been here. They didn't just like run across the border and move here. This was their land. They lived here before us. I just had a bad education. I just had a bad education. I genuinely didn't know that. It was so embarrassing to me as a lifelong Arizonan thinking, oh, I've walked around this whole time thinking, why are all these Mexicans invading my state when I'm actually invading their state?
Despite the fact that this country was founded on white people.
Again, she's just stupid.
And that is why America sucks. Because brown people ruin countries. Brown people want to live that way. Brown people want to live in squalor. They want to shit in the streets. They want to eat disgusting food, throw trash in the streets, worship retarded gods. Sorry. I'm pretty worn out, by the way, as well.
So that little bit right there is really important. When I was a Christian nationalist, white supremacist, Mormon, all the things, I believed that my religion was the only true religion. And it's funny because doesn't everyone in their religion believe that, right? But I did not hold any space for the fact that, oh, maybe the Buddhists are right. Maybe the Taoists are right. Maybe the atheists are right. Maybe the Catholics are right. No, they were all just stupid, dumb, idols, satanic, evil. And that is how I viewed everyone of every other religion. As a Mormon, I even looked at other Christians like that. Like, if you're a Baptist, you're just following Satan. Lutherans were all going to hell in my book. My church was the only true church. And these religions who indoctrinate people that their truth is the truth, even using the word truth when it's actually mythology. The Christian Bible, it's not factual, it's not truth. It's mythological writing. They have faith in it, they believe in it, but that doesn't make it truth. That makes it your belief.
That culture's fine for them in their own country. That works for them. It works for them. They have no problem with it. They have no problem washing their face in cow dung. Yes, that's happening in India. They have no problem not eating cows because they worship cows, but instead eating.
The cow thing's weird to me. Like, that makes us superior because we eat cows. Oh my God.
Vermin and rats. Okay, this is India, of which we speak. Over in Africa, they are fine with eating each other. They are fine with eating cakes made of mud. All these things are true. You can go look it up yourself. That's great for them in their own country. More power to you. It's disgusting and revolting to me, but I don't have any problem with it in your own country because I would never go to Africa. I would never go to that continent at all.
I would love for her to go to Africa.
No desire to go there at all. White people, on the other hand, we like to build things. We like to invent things. We like beautiful things. We like beauty. I think that's kind of encapsulated in white culture. We make pretty things just for the sake of making pretty things. Art has no purpose aside from beautifying and enriching a culture, and yet we make it. Music really has no purpose other than enriching someone's mind and life and beautifying the culture. Same with architecture. We can make all our buildings utilitarian and brutalist and miserable and just work, provide a function. But instead, we want to put crown molding in our houses. We want our buildings to be beautiful and ornate and have designs on them. We like to have crests as an emblem, we used to, as an emblem of our heritage and our rich families. But now America, as we've been pretty much taken over completely by non-whites, it's been a steady stream, but it's really ramped up in the past couple of years. We're now experiencing what it's like to live in a third world country.
Okay. I used to have no idea that there were incredible works of architecture and art around the world because I hadn't been educated. I had a very America-centric education, even in my public school, and a very Christian-centric education just because a lot of my school teachers were Christian. The first time I even saw a picture of like the Taj Mahal, it baffled me. It absolutely blew me away. I was like, oh, wow, interesting, because I thought that Europeans had been the source of all light and knowledge. And that's just simply not true. This girl isn't educated. Do you know that some of the very first Europeans that penetrated the South American, when they discovered some of the incredible architectural ruins of the Aztecs and the Olmecs and the Mayans, they speculated that Europeans must have migrated to South America centuries ago. So baffled were they by the intricate architecture, by the intricate writings and art and mathematics and other things that they were seeing, the feats of engineering and mathematics that it took to erect some of these ruins that they were finding spread throughout the jungle in the South Americas, that they wrote books and sent back to Europe saying, look, we have proof that Europeans have already been to the Americas. The proof is this architecture. And coincidentally, that is the foundational belief of the Mormon Church. The Book of Mormon is a testament of several different groups of white people who came from Jerusalem to America and settled here, several different migrations, some going all the way back to the Tower of Babel. And then about 600 BC was another one. These white people, according to Mormonism, were supposed to have been the original ancestors of the American Indians.
No longer can even access cultural events. Good luck trying to find a concert to go to.
I went to 3 different concerts this weekend. They were incredible. All of them were great.
Luck finding a string quartet to listen to.
One of the concerts, I heard an incredible flamenco guitarist just 2 weeks ago.
Good luck finding a decent art museum. The last time I went,
I've been to the art museum twice in the past 2 months here in Tucson.
to an art museum in my area. I found the only art museum in the area, and you know what? There was on exhibit. It was native art, not even Indian, feather, not dot. It was like Mexican art, and it was disgusting. I went to another art museum, and it was all African art. And do I even need to go into what that looks like? You got to go to the big cities to even find something remotely decent. And even then, you're swamped with woke shit and plays and modern classical music that was written by not the people who wrote the old Baroque classics. Let's just say that.
I really doubt that she's listening to Baroque classics. That's a very narrow niche of music. So she's not educated. She doesn't know what she's talking about. An interesting thing about Christian nationalism is that we fetishized like the Little House on the Prairie era, like the American frontier homesteading. And we had so much nostalgia for like these old-fashioned ways. I can't even tell you how many of my friends bought and remodeled Victorian houses. My bestie lives a very short drive away from Ballerina Farm. And I would go to church, and it was these pioneer hymns. The Mormon church, we didn't have like rock bands and drums and guitars and things like that. We had hymns that were written in like the 17 and 1800s. That's what we sing on Sunday. I we had the I just had such this nostalgia around this is what real America is. It was clawfoot tubs and wallpaper and women in prairie dresses and men in suits and ties. Interestingly, like that's the big thing in Mormonism. Yeah, impressionistic art or African art. I wouldn't have even accepted that as art because it didn't fit that very narrow niche of what I believed was the spirit of America. I will say I was never as I do have to say right here that I know that some of this is really hard to listen to, and this creator is really hard for me to listen to also. I may have thought these things in my head, but I would have never said any of this out loud publicly, and I was never quite as hateful as her. She's just mean.
It's disgusting. Our culture sucks. Black culture in particular has been extremely pervasive and detrimental to our culture. During the civil rights era, they were kind of raised up. And then in the 80s, they were looked on as cool. They started making movies about black guys because that's what you want to emulate. Then they started really pushing it hard under Obama. And we've been inundated with this forced integration of you must revere black culture. You must listen to their music. You want to dress like these people. This is exotic and cool. If you want
exotic. She doesn't even speak English terribly well, so that's just me being petty and mean to this girl here. But I don't think that anybody's forcing anyone to adopt Black culture. I was born in 1974, and I remember when I snuck over to a friend's house because I was never allowed to watch MTV or anything like that. I snuck over to a friend's house, and she had MTV, and Michael Jackson's Thriller had just come out sometime when I was in elementary school, and he was the coolest thing that I had ever seen. Gave me goosebumps. I actually just learned how to do the Thriller dance the past couple weeks at some dance classes here in Tucson, Arizona, taught by an incredible couple that are highly refined dancers. They just decided to teach us all the Thriller dance since Halloween is coming up. Then I had the opportunity to dance the big Thriller dance with Kevin Saturday night at another big concert we're at where they just happened to play Thriller. And we just learned it, but nobody told me, Jenny, you have to think Michael Jackson is cool. He just was. And in this little bit here, you really hear the white supremacy. This is the superiority aspect that we shouldn't be putting people who aren't whites on a pedestal. We shouldn't be looking up to their culture. We shouldn't be looking up to their art. We shouldn't be looking up to their knowledge base. If you're not aware of this, there's an ideology called the Seven Mountains of Christian Nationalism, also referred to as Dominionist conservative ideology with evangelical Christianity. And there are these 7 pillars that only white Christians are supposed to role model and be the light shining on the hill. So they don't want anyone else to have any of their stuff shine brighter than them. The 7 Mountains ideology holds that there are 7 aspects of society that believers seek to dominate: family, religion, education, media, arts and entertainment, business, and government. So why is this girl so upset that there's African art at her art museum or that there's some Mexican American art at an art museum? Because in her mind, those pillars, those mountains should only be Christian.
to take a chance to watch a movie that will absolutely turn your stomach, watch the new Elvis Presley movie. They made a movie, it was supposed to be like a biopic or whatever of Elvis Presley's life, and it was disgusting. The only reason I watched that garbage was because I was on a 16-hour flight, and there was Brokeback Mountain to choose from and Elvis. So I chose Elvis. Little did I know that they planned on rewriting the entire thing and saying basically Elvis would have never been Elvis had he not gone to and listened to black artists, and that basically it was black culture that created Elvis. So that's what they've been pushing. They've been pushing this idea.
So that's actually true. Elvis was very much influenced by jazz. That's not somebody pushing an agenda. And the reason that she has a problem with it is that the 7 pillars say that arts and entertainment should only come from Jesus Christ himself, from Christian society, that the believers should be the ones who are the examples. This is also the reason that Christians across America right now are pooping their pants that Bad Bunny is performing at the halftime show. That's not just racist. It's racist and Christian nationalist. Those things are combining. these Christians have decided that if we're going to watch football, which is an all-American event, which is clean and wholesome and family friendly, that they also want a Christian halftime show because that's one of the 7 pillars.
Yeah, that they are the people to be revered. They are the people to be emulated and looked up to. White people, yuck. Concerts, beautiful music, beautiful art, beautiful clothing, aesthetics, architecture, that's gross. Let's look up to Bad Baby. Let's look up to Lil Wayne. Let's look up to Black artists with Jewish producers who make garbage music that teaches you to go after bitches like fat asses and gang bang and shoot people up. Okay, I don't listen to rap, so I don't really know what the context is, but from what I've heard, being played loudly in people's cars, when I look over and it's a white guy playing rap music loudly, it makes me physically ill and I want to flip him off. But that's why our culture sucks. That's why we don't have good food. We eat snacks, we eat crap. We don't care.
On the topic of the snacks and the crap, almost all of the crappy food that we eat is made for us by very rich conglomerates that are producing this stuff. It's the billionaires. It's the post conglomerate that's making a lot of our breakfast food and Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Go watch the series, The Foods That Made America. It's a bunch of white dudes. That's who's making this food. It's a bunch of white dudes. That's who's making this food. McDonald's was started by white people. Walmart was a white dude. In my hometown here in Tucson, Arizona, some of the best food that I have ever eaten. I'm going to go out to dinner with Kevin tonight because I only cook one night a week. We're going to go to my favorite Mexican restaurant. They hand grind the masa for the tamales. The salsa is made out of our fresh, ripe Arizona tomatoes. It is some of the best food that I have ever eaten. Tomorrow, I'm going to go to our local Asian supermarket, Lily Market. I will buy an abundance of fresh fruits and vegetables. My fresh young coconuts come from the Asian grocery store. And ironically, just a few weeks ago, I went from Lily Market to Walmart. There are a couple of items that every once in a while I have to go into a Walmart. And it was stunning to see the difference between the mostly brown-skinned people that were shopping in Lily Market who had radiant skin, big, beautiful smiles with white teeth, gleaming, shining, healthy, beautiful hair, tiny little waists. I didn't see a single person in the entire Asian supermarket that was overweight. And then I went into my local Walmart and there was barely a person in there who wasn't somewhere on the obesity spectrum. Many of them looked sick, and not to judge, I have so much sympathy for what puts people in a situation where they can't afford or they don't have the culture of the healthy food. But if I just take a tour around Tucson and go in the Indian restaurant, the Mexican restaurant, the Thai restaurant, our Creole restaurant with all the jambalaya and stuff, the Korean restaurant, they have the best kimchi in the world. And then I go to an American restaurant. Only in the American restaurant will I be eating white flour with cheese and something, and mostly everything is fried, and then a giant tumbler full of icy cold Dr. Pepper and a slice of cheesecake on the side. American food culture is horrendous because of the Americans.
Go over to another country like Europe or whatever, France, Italy, Spain, wherever you want to go. Any other country that has not been inundated with non-whites for as long of a time as we have. You go over there and meal times actually matter. They actually put effort into their food.
Has she actually been to Europe? I haven't, but I have friends in Europe. And a lot of people that I know that live in other countries aren't white.
Art form, because that's what white people do. We like to do our best. We like everything that we do to be done like an art form because that's something innate in white people, that they want to make art, no matter what they're building, whether they're building a chair, whether they're making a pastry, whether they're making you a coffee. It's beautiful.
We invented Walmart. We invented freeways. We invented McDonald's. We invented the modern track home. Old Navy clothing. Come on.
And it's pleasing. And it settles the soul and it makes you feel at home there. And you feel at home when you go to those other countries that are mostly white and have been white for a lot longer than we have been, unfortunately. And you just feel like you can finally breathe. You feel like you're at home and you don't really know why. You're like, I'm not from this country. I don't speak their language. At ease. We were not meant, white people were not meant to run around like savages. We're above that. We were meant to live our life leisurely because we do things well. We have good engineering minds. Thus, we don't have to be in an office 24/7 slaving away like a rat.
Wasn't algebra invented by a brown-skinned person? In fact, geneticists are pretty firm in the fact that blonde hair, blue eyes, white skin is a very recent genetic mutation. I mean, we're talking like 6 to 10,000 years from all of the research that I've read. So most of the technology, most of the knowledge that has led to the engineering and the architecture and the art and all of the discoveries that we have today, whether that's medical or technological, comes on the backs of discoveries that have been going on generation after generation for millennia that all came from brown-skinned people, which we all once were.
We're supposed to live leisurely, surrounded by beautiful things that enrich our lives and make us feel more at home and happy. And
the whole leisure bit to me just smacked of Southern plantation. And that's just bizarre. Even as somebody who was a former white supremacist, some of the stuff that she's saying is just like, this is wild. And the people who follow her and believe the same things terrify me.
that ultimately stems as well from the fact that white people are predominantly Christian. And that comes from, the otherworldly, if you will.
So this little bit right here just hit home so hard for me because I believed that Adam and Eve were white. In all of the artwork that I had when I was religious as a child growing up in seminary and my BYU education, Adam and Eve were always depicted as blonde and blue-eyed and white-skinned. When I went through the Mormon temple, Eve looked just like me. She had like this long hair. There's actually a video where like Adam and Eve are on screen with these actors playing them, and they chose this really blonde Eve. And people would even say, Jenny, Eve looks so much like you. And it's like, I know, because I'm perfect. I believe that Heavenly Father was white, that Jesus was white, and they made Adam and Eve in their own image, which was white. And the only reason the dark skin ever came into the world was Cain and Abel. So God cursed people with brown skin.
And that ultimately stems as well from the fact that white people are predominantly Christian. And that comes from, the otherworldly, if you will. Beauty, aesthetics, art, music. It's more at home and happy.
So as part of that, I believed that every bit of technology that we had, whether that was artistic or musical or, medical, scientific, electrical, whatever, that all of that was revelation from God. And I believed, because I had been taught this by my religion, I didn't make this up on my own, that all those things were revelation from God, that God revealed his light and knowledge and his truth to his chosen people. So Christopher Columbus coming to America, well, that was God revealing to Christopher Columbus where this continent was. Medical advancements and things like that. I believed that anyone who wasn't God's chosen children just didn't have any technology because they were just under the influence of Satan. They were just like on their own as human beings. So that's what she's talking about right here. She literally believes that if you're not Christian, that you can't discover and invent things.
Beauty, aesthetics, art, music. It's like nature. So that's why America sucks. And there's a few oases in America. There's one, Abington, Virginia. Sorry, I know I'm really rambling today, but I don't really care. I just kind of feel like talking to you guys about this because this has always pissed me off. And I was always wondering, why is America so different? Why are we so completely different? Why does it feel more relaxing in other countries, despite the fact that you don't speak the language and you are almost like an alien in their culture? Why does it feel so nice to be over there?
It feels relaxing in other countries. because we aren't run by billionaires, because late-stage industrialized Christian capitalism hasn't sucked the lives out of everybody, because you don't have to work as much, because we don't just have Walmarts and McDonald's and Targets on every single corner. Our lives aren't just crappy. That has nothing to do with brown people. That has to do with an entire nation that was built after the Industrial Revolution on a foundation of Christian capitalism and unfettered consumerism.
And why is it so stressful here? Why do people honk the horn at you all the time? They won't let you in. Everybody's in a rush. Everybody's angry and tense. It's because that's the culture that's been foisted on us. We never asked for this. We've had third worlders from other countries where they pile up on top of trains, and they shit in the streets, and they leave trash everywhere. And that's fine for them. But that doesn't work well with white people. And
Mexico's not a third world country. When she's referring to third worlders stacking up on trains, the only way that you can get to America on train is if you're coming from Canada or Mexico. And Mexico's not a third world country. I don't think that she even understands what the word third world country means.
People wilt and fade and die under that. We're not happy. That's why people aren't wanting to have kids, because they feel unfulfilled. And they're always striving. And that could even be why you see people never wanting to grow up. They don't want to grow up because they don't want to face the reality of this hellhole that we live in. They want to remain a kid forever. So you have all these copes that white people have been having to do because our culture's been forcefully stripped away from us. Our societies have been turned into reflections of the third world. We now have to fight in line and fight for our lives amongst people who should never have been here to begin with. We have to fight in the aisles of grocery stores.
I've never fought in the aisle of a grocery store, and I go to the grocery store all the time. That's where we all get our food, right? Never once. Like, where does she live? What is happening where she lives? And I've lived all over the country. I've lived in Portland, Oregon, Scottsdale, Arizona, all over Arizona, Tucson, Arizona. I've lived in Camden, Arkansas, just outside of Smackover. I've lived in Travelers Rest, South Carolina. I've lived in parts of Utah. I've lived in Idaho. I've lived all over the place. I've had a good snippet and used to travel. I've been in grocery stores in many of the states, at least 50% of the states in America. I've spent summers in Hawaii. I've been up to Washington. I have never once fought in a grocery store. Not ever. Not even in grocery stores in areas where there's all kinds of cops standing outside the grocery store because it's an area that has some crime.
We have to compete with these third worlders who stock up on things. And if you don't go in there and start scrapping like the rest of them, well, you'll miss out. And that's what's happened to American society. And there is no fixing that unless a radical leader comes to power and the people with a collective mind, with a collective determination, decides to do something about it.
The Klan, the white supremacists. That's who she's talking about.
Decides to send these people back to where they came from. These people don't like it here. Just as we feel at home when we're surrounded by non-whites, they feel the same way. But instead of going back to their own home countries, they decided, well, we're just going to take yours, and then we'll turn it into a version of Africa or India over here.
America's not our home country. My ancestors have only been here for a few hundred years. And when I was a white supremacist and Christian nationalist myself, I believed that what made me the owner of America was, like, my Christian leaders told me that God gave this to us. Again, the Book of Mormon said that this was God's promised land. There's this little song that we used to sing at church. It's called Book of Mormon Stories. Book of Mormon stories that my teachers tell to me are about and there are these super racist hand motions that went with it, are about the Lamanites in ancient history. Long ago, their fathers came from far across the sea, given this land if they live righteously. I was taught that America belonged to whoever God chose to give it to. So God obviously chose to give it to the Christians, the white Christians, and specifically the white Mormon Christians, it belonged to us. It didn't belong to the Baptists or the evangelicals or the Catholics or anybody else. It was just ours. And someday Jesus would come back, everybody else would burn, and it would just be us. It was only in the past handful of years that I was listening to a college professor who had her stuff up online, and I was just basically like taking free college classes from this woman. I don't even know who she was anymore, but thank you for educating me. She taught about genetics, and she taught me the word indigeneity and what it means to be First Nations, what it means to be the very first people who are in a land. And I'm sorry, but Americans, we are not. This isn't our country. This isn't our homeland. My homeland is Germany and Norway and England and Scotland, and we have a little bit of French and some stuff mixed in there. I am an invasive species, and so is she.
That's what they want. That's why when you go to the ghetto, that's why when you go to Indian sides of town, it all looks different, smells different, has a different energy in the air. It's because we're being occupied and we're being taken over.
I don't even need to say anything here, right? Like everyone in my audience understands we are the occupiers. We are the ones who have taken over.
And this was forced upon us by a cabal of people who have usurped and destroyed our politicians through blackmail, assassinations, nepotism. We are an occupied country, and we're in a state of decay. It's decayed from the inside out and from the outside in. Not only are our borders basically non-existent because they haven't been patrolled and people are allowed to come in, and there's not that many deportations except for MS-13 gang members and violent criminals, and we've rotted from the inside as well. Our politicians are entirely corrupt. I don't think there's a single elected politician in the U.S. politics today that actually has America's interest at heart. There might be people working behind the scenes, and we know there are, but they're not the people who make the rules.
Project 2025 is probably the people behind the scenes that she's in favor of. And yeah, she's right. America is in decay, and it is because of the occupiers, and that is all of us who are non-native. So that is why I always say that I'm an anarchist and I promote land back. Let's give the land back to the Navajos and the Apaches and the Hopis, and let them form a government system over all of us and take care of their land. And should they choose to keep us here, that's great. Otherwise, we all go back to our homelands. They ship us back to England and Germany and wherever we're from. I vote for that. I'm in full support of that. I am 100% in support of, if we are going to get rid of the occupiers, let's get rid of all of the occupiers. We will all leave. The Indians, the Koreans, the Chinese, the Mexicans, all of the, quote, third worlders that she's talking about, and everybody from Africa. We will all leave at once, including the white people. Problem solved. I have a couple Navajo friends who I think would be very happy about this.
There might be people working behind the scenes, and we know there are, but they're not the people who make the rules. So what we have to do as white people is we have to identify with our race. We have to collectivize. We have to have a collective plan. It can't just be one rally here and one rally there where the rest of America is like, well, I don't like that. That seems racist. That comes across as racist. I don't actually care at all because I'm sick of living in this country. Most people are sick of living in this country. And that's not fair that we have to flee the country that our ancestors built and sweated and died for, so that people from a third world country can come over here and make it an image of their own countries and run us out. So our only option right now is America is the modern day Rome, and it's literally being swept away by barbarians invading us from all sides. We have to either decide we are going to remain, stand our ground, and take our country back. And that means growing a pair and not freaking out when you see the propaganda videos coming out of ICE. Oh, ICE is deporting a mother and her children. You have to mix mercy and compassion with justice. You can't have any justice in this country for the founders of this country if you're too merciful. I'm not saying do anything mean to people. I'm saying the laws need to be enforced. I'm saying the people who should not be here need to be gotten rid of. They need to be deported.
Again, here's some of the toxic empathy. Like, it's not nice if we keep all these people here and destroy our country. So, first of all, if you are not aware, this is what's happening in America right now. These people are organizing. That's what Project 2025 is. That's why all the racism is just blatantly out there, because they are organizing to cleanse America. And I don't know in hundreds of years from now if we're ever able to fix this problem. I say this all the time, and people think that I'm being just sarcastic about it, but I think it's time that we rip up all of the treaties that we signed at Appomattox and we just let the South go, and we let people like this live in their little 20 states of America. And unfortunately, anyone who is not like this little young woman here, they're going to have to relocate to blue regions. And we have a Brexit type of thing in America, splits in two. And the people who sided with the Civil War, the Mason-Dixon line, and then some Western boundary and the Louisiana Purchase, that becomes these people. And they can be as racist as they want. They can homeschool all their kids. They can elect J.D. Vance as president and Erica Kirk as his vice. I think that that is the only pathway forward for America.
And what all of us can do right now, there's nothing we can do at this point. No, the nation is not ready. But what every one of you watching this can do is you can not only figure out exactly what you want America to look like and remember your past and your heritage, but you can also encourage other white people. Take one for the team. If you see a white homeless person, give them a handout. If you see a charity that's for another country, maybe pass on that. If you see a white person in need of help, help that person out. Because no one's helping white people. They're the last in line. If they make the line at all.
That's because they're privileged. That's because they have so many resources and so much money. They have intergenerational privilege. Even me, when I was the most poor, when I was homeless, sleeping in my Mercedes sport utility vehicle without the ability to buy food, I didn't have a good safety net. I came from intergenerational poverty. But even still, I had that one rich uncle who was the famous architect who had a guest house in his backyard, and he let me move into it. Most Americans don't have that privilege. They simply don't.
Encourage other people. Start forming a white alliance. That's what needs to be done.
That's exactly what is happening, and it should terrify all of you. I know I've shown this quite a bit. I had some people who just said, I think that that little pin on your shirt that you show in those pictures is AI. It's not. This is a real little brooch. It's a Confederate flag. I went to a country store about 20 minutes away from my house in Travelers Rest, South Carolina, where the Grand Wizard of the Klan, who I thought was a really nice man, owned and ran the store and sold all kinds of Klan propaganda and like T-shirts that said, like, good thing Abraham Lincoln got assassinated and stuff like that. And I wore this everywhere I went as a sign of that solidarity and white pride. This was my past.
That's what needs to be done now. Because until the people collectively have a will to do something about this, we will simply be forced to either flee or submit to being conquered. So what we can all do is we can encourage our white brethren to stand with each other. We can stand for our own race, our own people, our own heritage, learn our history, know why you should be proud of it.
I feel like I want her to learn history more than anything else. She clearly doesn't know anything.
And try to get the spider webs of propaganda out of your mind, because they've told you for years, that this is not your country, you have no right to it, this is a melting pot. Maybe look into who coined the term melting pot. That'll give you a lot of answers right there. But I'm sick of living here. I'm sick of the way this country operates. I'm sick of how this country is. It's depressing to be here. It hurts the morale and it hurts your spirit. And you see white people now lashing out at each other because they're scrambling. It's like sink or swim.
It literally is sink or swim, because the resource hoarders at the top, most of whom are white, have disrupted our economic system in ways that are making everyday life very difficult for the average human being. I hate everything that she says in this little bit right here, because I love America. I love my life. I love the things that I'm doing. I love this country. I love Tucson. I love the time that we're living in. I don't know if she just needs some therapy and a medication.
And we got to get away from this idea that it's every man for himself. That's the problem with thinking as an individual only and living in an individualist society. They push that on purpose because they want white people to be individualists. They don't want white people to help each other out. They don't want white people to give each other a hand up. They don't want us to collectivize, because as soon as we collectivize, it's over for these invaders. As soon as we collectivize and have unity amongst ourselves, and we know what we want, and we rally behind a leader, and we're willing to sacrifice comforts, maybe even a job, it's worth it in the end.
I feel like white people have been collectivized in America for as long as America has been here, and it's disgusting. So maybe what we try to do instead is stop being colonizers, and maybe we try to integrate and get along with people. And that's actually what I've done on just a little micro level in my own life. When I left the Mormon church and then left the Christian church, broke up with Jesus, told him he was the wrong guy for me, and then broke up with MAGA, broke up with Donald Trump 2 years ago, broke up with every toxic ideology that I had ever been indoctrinated with, and just started living in the world and embracing humans. And my life changed entirely in amazing, incredible, unbelievable ways that I can't even describe for you. Maybe instead of doing it the way that we have been doing it forever, we try that instead. We love each other. Just an idea.
If we want our country back, we have to do everything in our power to get our country back. And that starts with unifying with each other. That starts with identifying that you are white. And you should have a kinship with other white people, regardless of whether you disagree with them politically or not.
After just watching this girl for like 2 solid days in preparation for this video, I literally cannot even go out with white people anymore. Like, I want to renounce my genetics. That's not possible, but I wish that I could. If like my local Navajo tribe would adopt me, then I would do that 100%.
Because, and I've noticed this is a trend, they love to shit on white liberal women. They love to do that. And why do they want to take down white liberal women so bad? Well, A, they're an easy target.
I am not an easy target at all. At all.
And B, white women have a womb, and white women, regardless of what their politics are, can have white children. So you have to be very sensitive to the anti-white propaganda that's out there, because it's everywhere. And once you start looking for it, you'll see it everywhere and it'll shock you. So with that being said, we have to collectivize, we have to unify, we have to love each other, and we have to help each other out, and we have to encourage each other. White men in particular have been especially beaten down and browbeaten to feel like they're the reason for the downfall of our country.
They're the reason for the downfall of our country. I'm sorry. I'll put my link, White Men Can't Feel, in the description of this video. The data shows that white men are the root of all evil, not that all men are like that. There are some spectacular men. I have an incredible partner. I have incredible friends. But yes, all of the problems that she's talking about in our country stem from white men. All of them, 100% of them. Hardly anything that she has a problem with comes from a brown-skinned person. That is it. I know that this has gone a little bit long. I wanted to cover most of her video, and that's all of this video that I want to play. I know that this is a little bit long to listen to. I hope that it has provided some insight for you. I just want to conclude by saying that I have heard conversations like this my whole entire life. If you are not aware that there are people walking around in America in their cute little Lululemons, driving their SUVs full of kids, going home to their little trad wife lives who think this, then your head is in the sand. And these people are in government right now, and these people have all of the power in America. And I worry so much for so many people. And these people are in power right now. I'll be hanging out in the comments. I'd love to hear from you what the most alarming bit of her video was to you. Thanks for watching, guys. Be kind to each other.